Before we get to Jessica, though, we've got an active revolt in the WNBA, and it is unusual for a player of the caliber, of the excellence of Napheesa Collier to just scorch management this way in a way that is super eloquent. And we've talked before about the general officiating problem throughout sports. We've talked specifically of the officiating problem in the WNBA, but to go after leadership this way, it is really rare. And she is speaking. There are a whole lot of players who have spoken up right behind her saying, man, this is just a mess at the top of the WNBA.
I want to be clear, this conversation is not about winning or losing. It's about something much bigger. The real threat to our league isn't money. It isn't ratings or even missed calls or even physical play. It's the lack of accountability from the league office. Since I've been in the league, you've heard the constant concerns about officiating, and it has now reached levels of inconsistency that plague our sport and undermine the integrity in which it operates. Whether the league cares about the health of the players is one thing, but to also not care about the product we put on the floor is truly self-sabotage. The league has a buzzword that they've rolled out as talking points for the CBA as to why they can't pay the players what we're worth. That word is sustainability. But what's truly unsustainable is keeping a good product on the floor while allowing officials to lose control of games. Fans see it every night. Coaches, both winning and losing, point it out every night in pregame and postgame media. Yet leadership just issues fines and looks the other way. They ignore the issues that everyone inside the game is begging to be fixed. That is negligence. At Unrivaled this past February, I sat across from Kathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league. Her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me, players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them. That's a mentality driving our league from the top. The league believes it succeeds despite its players, not because of them.
There's more to that. She said more. You can hear her a little breathy, a little nervous. This has to be something that is nerve-wracking. She was on South Beach Sessions and was excellent, far more relaxed than this. But she's doing something here to Kathy Engelbert, who a lot of people have a complaint about, the commissioner of the league, and you can hear the nerves in her voice a little bit.
I have the privilege of watching my husband run a league where he has to balance 100 different things at once. I won't pretend the job is easy, but even with all of that on his plate, he always takes the time to reach out to players when he sees an injury, whether it's Unrivaled or even during the WNBA season. That is what leadership looks like. It's the human element, it's basic integrity, and it's the bare minimum any leader should embody. This year alone, I've gotten calls, texts, and well wishes from so many players across the league. But do you know who I haven't heard from? Kathy. Not one call, not one text. Instead, the only outreach has come from her number 2 telling my agent that she doesn't believe physical play is contributing to injuries. That is infuriating, and it's the perfect example of the tone-deaf, dismissive approach that our leaders always seem to take. I've finally grown tired. For too long, I have tried to have these conversations in private, but it's clear there is no intention of accepting there's a problem. The league has made it clear it isn't about innovation, it isn't about collaboration, it's about control and power. I've earned this platform and I've paid the price to get here, and now I have a responsibility to speak on behalf of the fans and everyone in this league that deserves better. Our leadership's answer to being held accountable is to suppress everyone's voices by handing out fines. I'm not concerned about a fine. I'm concerned about the future of our sport. At some point, everyone deserves to hear the truth from someone who I hope has earned the benefit of the doubt to fight for what is right and fair for our athletes and our fans. We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now, we have the worst leadership in the world. If I didn't know exactly what the job entailed, maybe I wouldn't feel this way. But unfortunately for them, I do. We serve a league that has shown they think championship coaches and Hall of Fame players are dispensable, and that's fine. It's professional sports. But I will not stand quietly by and allow different standards to be applied at the league level.
Wow, that's monumental to me. I mean, she is leading, with the support of the players, she is leading a mutiny against the commissioner of a major league, and she's doing it at a time when the league is on its biggest stage in the playoffs, about to go into the finals. This would be the equivalent of Patrick Mahomes openly leading a mutiny against Roger Goodell. This cannot be understated how important it is.
Okay, so first of all, this league is wild, all right? In general, it is a wild league. I don't know any other league in professional sports in North America. It's nonstop drama with this league. It's pretty crazy. And we've never, at least I don't think we've ever seen something like this where a player, certainly as high profile as Napheesa Collier, is calling essentially for the removal of the commissioner. Now, I do think it's important to point out they're in the middle of a labor dispute. And, essentially the players here are saying we don't want to deal with her anymore, who is the negotiating head of the owners here. But some of the quotes that she put out or some of the things that she says there that Kathy Engelbert told her one time are pretty nuts. Like the idea that Caitlin Clark should be grateful for the WNBA because otherwise she wouldn't be able to make all of the money elsewhere sounds like a really terrible thing for Kathy Engelbert to go around saying to people. I don't want to hear that she was having a private conversation. Kathy Engelbert's not friends with the players. Like, she's the commissioner. So anytime she's speaking to a player, you're speaking as a representative of the WNBA and as commissioner. So I don't care about that part. It's not like she's out there snitching on Kathy Engelbert, okay? I do want to point out, though, she mentions, she knows what it's like to run a league because my husband runs a league and I see all this. Her husband runs Unrivaled, all right? Like, I think it's important to point that out as well, which is, hey, she's a terrible leader, but my husband who runs the league that, we're doing over here, I do think it's important to point out the possible conflict of interest when it comes to that. But man, like, that was a hit she put out on Kathy Engelbert. I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah, I think the drama in the NBA is good. I think Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark having this big rivalry is great for the league. But it's all up, and they can. The officiating is what's current right now, but I
think it's been the biggest story in the league this year.
Yes, but the underpinning of the whole thing continues to be the salaries and the disparity, and it's what got Brittany Griner arrested in Russia a few years ago. And the disparity continues, even though the wages are going up. It's still terrible, and the NBA, which is involved financially in the WNBA, needs to do appreciably more than it is doing.
I do think we're going to bring in Jess here. She hosts the Echoes podcast with Mike Golick, and this week they have Jeremiah Love on because this is not an echo chamber. They celebrate all things Notre Dame football. One of the reasons that the officiating is the big story is because it's easy for us to talk about the officiating and not necessarily Aces Fever Game 5 or Phoenix Mercury. I know Zaz is watching the WNBA very closely. You and I, Greg, are not. It's easier for us to talk about macro topics. But Jessica, what did you make of what it is that Napheesa Collier did and said there?
I thought that it was obviously like the officiating angle is what has been a big part of the conversation this season, but I really think that was only an entry point for her because of what happened at the end of the Lynx game on Sunday night. I think that obviously the bigger takeaway here is that the players in the league are in this labor dispute and they feel like Kathy Engelbert has been a truly terrible leader at a time in which, like Greg mentioned, the WNBA is on its biggest stage, has the most viewers in history, and needs a leader who's able to actually work with the players and get them the things that they need. And instead, Kathy Engelbert has done a lot of things that the players feel like have been wrong by them. So, I mean, there are all the examples that you heard that she gave, but there's also just been like these silly faux pas that she's made, like last year wearing the New York skyline dress to the end, the finals game where the Liberty won, in another controversial end of game officiating situation, and pronouncing names wrong of coaches that she's giving awards to, things like that. So I really think that this is a bigger thing. And to talk about Unrivaled for a second, like, yes, she's saying her husband, he's, I believe, the president of Unrivaled. Obviously she's biased towards that, but Napheesa Collier is one of the founders of Unrivaled. So she herself knows how to run a league. She's been in meetings with brands and with television networks, and she knows that when you want to get things done, if you actually want to get something done, it's a little bit easier than maybe the WNBA leadership has led on to. Like, I think private jets is a great example of that. Apparently there are these huge setbacks, huge hurdles to flying charter flights to games until all of a sudden there wasn't, because eventually the WNBA decided that was something they actually wanted to do. I'm sure that there's other examples of that too, right? But Napheesa Collier, in her experience, has found that actually some of these things, when you actually want to get them done and do them for the players, are a little bit easier than they may be letting on to. And of course, the uniqueness of all of this is because of the ownership structure in the WNBA. I mean, Kathy Engelbert is appointed by Adam Silver, I believe. She is sort of a scapegoat here. I don't think she's doing anything that the NBA doesn't want her to do. So I do believe that this is a problem that's bigger than she is. But as this ongoing labor negotiation it's going to stretch on, and the players believe that they are a very far ways away from having any sort of agreement with management, I think that this is a very calculated move to, especially to get all of the fans on board together against management, against a common opponent, and to explain that, hey, we want to give you guys high-level basketball. We want an entertaining product. We want all of the fans to understand that this isn't because the players are stuck in their ways. This is because there's a lot of forces against us right now trying to prevent those things from happening.
Jess, is it slightly bad form, though, for the timing of this statement from her? Because I'm sure the league and what's best for the league would be all eyes on, we now have a matchup in the WNBA Finals, but the biggest story by far is what Napheesa Collier said yesterday.
No, I don't think so, because I think that, if anything, I think this will get people interested in the WNBA in general, because this is such a, I think this could legitimately be like a paradigm shifting moment in the WNBA. Especially, there was reporting that came out last night in Sports Business Journal that Kathy Engelbert was not going to proceed after the negotiation, and she was going to step down anyways. So, I mean, for there to be a leadership change at this point, I think is a pretty big story. But I don't think that this takes away from. I'm curious. I'm sure the ratings were huge, because the Fever have gotten huge ratings all season long, even without Caitlin Clark. But I'm sure the Aces Fever game probably still had a ton of viewers, even though it was on too late. And I might have dozed off a little bit because it ended after midnight. It went into overtime. But it was still a really exciting games and now the finals go to 7 games if needed. So I don't think that this really takes away from that. If anything, I think it's getting people, especially fans, like really interested, invested in what is going to come here.
What did you take away from Aces Fever Game 5? And just in general, the weird route that the Aces took back to the finals?
It was a lot, Dan. I mean, and also another game where a lot of people are going to talk about the officiating, because Aaliyah Boston fouled out. And some people thought that it was a little ticky-tack. It was a little ticky-tack considering what, the physicality level has been in some of these other series. So, especially even in that series. So, yeah, it was awesome, I thought, to see the Fever make it that far, because they've had so many injuries this season, like player after player after player, season-ending injury. I thought they fought really hard, and the fact that they took it to overtime was crazy. It would have been really cool to see them make it to a final, given the just insanity of the season that they've had. I'm sure their fans are exhausted right now. But it was just a really exciting game. I mean, high-level play from Jackie Young and A'ja Wilson, who's obviously the MVP of the league. She just is so good and just awesome. And the Aces, despite not having a front court that can really score a lot and contribute a lot, has somehow made it back to the finals after a season in which they lost in a historic blowout fashion midway through the summer. Like I saw A'ja Wilson, I think, said last night that people counted us out. And a lot of people rolled their eyes at that and were like, no one counted you out. You're the Aces. I counted them out. I didn't think they were going to be back in the finals. I thought that this season, nothing was going their way. So, they were able to dig deep and pull it off there. And, it's going to be an exciting finals between them and the Mercury. They're kind of two completely different teams, but I think it's going to be good basketball.